welcome to our August webinar. Today we have a very special speaker, is Osiris. She's one of our creativest content creators in the team. She has like more than 5 years of experience in content creation and thinking about how to place your brand in a great position online in social media. She is the person in charge of managing some of our accounts at imLabs, and she's here to tell you a little bit about everything that's behind the scenes when you create local content for franchisees. So she's going to give you like a couple of tips and also show you how we do it for people who are already in our program and how you could do it on your own too. Our next webinar is going to be in 2 months, and we're going to go deeper into how you guys can manage your accounts on your own, even though you have an agency, even though you're working with us. We're going to teach you like how to go into your like accounts, how to go into Meta Business Suite, so that you can understand also how to get to your reports, results, track daily, and post things on your own, because you can always post things on your own as well. Remember that if you're not our customer, you can always book a free call to get an assessment and walk through your pages to see how you're doing. And we can show you all the things that we can help you to grow your accounts. Osiris, you can begin, and let's get to know more about content creation.
Thank you, Danny. So hi, everybody. Really nice to meet you all. My name is Osiris, and as Daniela said, I am a marketing specialist with over 5 years of experience when it comes to content creation and data analysis. So today I will be talking about content creation, specifically how to create content for your local pages and for your local stores. So we will go step by step. I will be showing you the full picture. Why does it matter for your store? And some tips and tricks on how can you start creating content as well for your store and by yourselves. So without further ado, I would like to start by saying that most of the time, local franchise owners either take one of these two paths. Either they ignore social media or they try to handle that by themselves. However, ignoring social media makes you totally invisible. And then if you try to handle it by yourself, sometimes it ends up with burning time and energy that you could have spent somewhere else into your business, whether in the strategy or in the management side, and both lead to the same result, which are missed visibility, missed customers, and lost sales. So right now you might be wondering, okay, I know I cannot ignore social media, but are you also telling me that if I try to do that myself, that also won't work? Then why does content matter so much? Well, nowadays, your first impression isn't inside your store, it's actually online. Customers will look up for you online before they even consider visiting your store. That means that they will look at your Google reviews, they will look at what you're posting on social media, if you're posting about your promotions, about your offers, if you're active. And if you're not showing up on social media or Google, or if your content looks outdated, people won't give you a chance and they will go straightly to your competitor that's maybe across the street. So this is why it's very important that you start to think content not only as a task list that you have to achieve, but also as something that goes aligned with your strategy, especially when it comes to sales. So the solution to this might be simple. It will be, just to post content like something from your camera roll, or just to do something very quick and post it. But well, posting is something that goes beyond something extremely simple. There's so much happening behind the scenes where you're creating content. And the reality is that I know that in the surface, it might just look very easy. It might just look like it's just a picture with a message on it. But there is so much behind content creation. We have research, we have strategy, we have writing, design, approvals, analysis. So this is what we do for you every single month when we're sending you the content calendar, so your store has the local content that it needs. And then you might have heard me say content this, content that, content is important, but what is content? So content, it's everything your customers see online. It's the pictures, the images, the videos, even text, that's content. And it has only one purpose, which is to make people notice you, trust you, and buy from you. these are the three main requirements that your content must have in order for you to start seeing results. And if I had to put this into a formula as well, I will say that content, it's the result of doing research, of doing design, and of course of doing data analysis. This is important when we're, thinking about creating every single post for your store, because it gives us the chance to be purposeful. It's not just posting some random things, it's created with intention, whether it can be to connect with your audience or it can be to give you more foot traffic. So with that being said, let's start with the first step when it comes to content creation, which is the research part. So in the research part, we have three divisions. We analyze your local store, we analyze your market, and we analyze who your customers are. So when it comes to analyzing your local store, I will tell you to think about your store as if it was a human being that has a personality, that has something that makes it unique and different. And of course, that people should relate your local store to a certain feeling, and you will see why. So if you're, for example, a DQ store owner, I would say probably that the personality that your store has is someone that's playful, that's fun, that's youthful. Meanwhile, if you're a UPS store, I would say that the personality your store will have is someone that's reliable, trustworthy, and helpful. And then when we're talking during our check-in calls, where you might mention to me that if you're a DQ store, that maybe you offer all of the products that are in the DQ menu, or maybe that you offer deliveries, or that you offer cake customization. This is what makes your store different and stand out, even though you have several competitors around. And then if you're, for example, a UPS store, you might tell me that something that makes your store unique can be that maybe you offer passport services, or that you have a designer in the store that can help people design their flyers and get those printed out at your store, or maybe that you offer international shipping. So these two are mainly important when we're analyzing not only your franchise, but where we're analyzing as well what makes your store different and how can we make that stand out even more. And then finally, we have the feelings. So most of the time nowadays, people, even including me and maybe even some of you, we buy based on our feelings and our emotions, based on how a product or a service makes us feel. So when it comes to the DQ, I will say that people buy because they want to feel joy, because they want to feel, happiness, nostalgia, family moments. They're not just buying any DQ product, which can be a burger or a blizzard. They're buying something that goes beyond that. And then when it comes to a UPS store, people choose the UPS store not only because of the services you offer, but because they feel secure with your service, because they feel that you can bring to them that peace of mind. So this is very important when we're analyzing your local store, because this is what sets us like the base before we start digging further. And then we start to analyze your market after we have done the analysis on your local store. And when it comes to the market, we analyze who your competitors are. What are they doing? What promotions are they doing? How are they doing their things? And how can we do that even better or different? And then we also analyze your trends. We're analyzing what's happening around your store physically and also online. So this is not analyzing only social media trends, but we also analyze what's happening in terms of sports, in terms of music, culture. We use these elements because we leverage that information to create the right content at the right time. And then with that being said, you can see here at the bottom that we have the local events and seasonalities. And because we go hardcore basically when it comes to doing research, we also keep into account what seasonality is happening around your city, around your location, and that's how can we come up with this type of examples. So maybe you have heard that during August it was extremely trending online because she released her new album. So we make sure that we keep that into our content, like that you're going with the trend basically. And then when it comes to seasonalities, you may probably associate, for example, October with Halloween and November and December with the holiday season. So For example, for our DQ client, we created this post that you can see here on the right that's related to the NFL season. So that's how we take all of these elements and we start creating content that feels personalized and that speaks to your local audience. And then after we have analyzed your local store and we have analyzed your market, we moved into analyzing your customers. So in here, we try to figure out who are they, how do they speak, what do they like or dislike, and most importantly, what makes them buy. As I mentioned previously, people normally buy not only based on what you offer, but also based on how does your product and service makes them feel. And this is something that we call buyer persona, that we create a custom profile to analyze who your audience is, like that we can use words and expressions that are speaking directly to them. And then after we analyze your local store, your market, and your customer, this is only the 80% of all the research that we do, because the pending 20% are your insights. So no one knows your store best like you do. Maybe you have established best-selling product or service, or maybe you know that during certain seasonalities, you see an increase in profits. So our job is to make that seasonality into your most profitable year. So this is the part where communication is extremely important, because your insights are the cherry on top when it comes to the research part. And like that, we can establish a full and strong base that we can start working from. So this is everything that comes into the research part. This is the step number one. And then we moved into the step number two. After we have done the research on your local store, on your market, and on your customer, we moved into the ideation part, into the creative part. So this is divided by 4 sections. We start with the calendar plan. So with the calendar plan, here we define what amount of posts are we doing for your store. And also we divide this into topics. So for example, if we want to teach and educate your audience, we will do something that's mainly educational. But if we want to talk about your offers and your promotions or discounts, we will do something that's shifted into the promotional side. And then, as I mentioned, seasonalities are extremely important. So for example, for some stores in August and September, they might be extremely focused in back to school. So we make sure that we include this into your content calendar. And then finally, if we're looking to interact with your audience, we create engaging content like that. We are building a community around your local store. So after we have done the calendar plan, we have established the pillars and the topics, we have defined how many posts are we going to do, we moved into the formats. So the formats are basically this main 3. We have several more, but if we're looking to be concise when it comes to a promotion or a service, we will use everything in a photo. We put everything in a photo so the viewer can see everything in one page. It's everything in there. But if we're looking maybe to grab the viewer's attention, we will shift this towards a video, because it's eye-catching, it's very easy to see, to analyze. It's very easy for the viewer, just to see all the information. However, if maybe we're looking to explain details, maybe about a new product or maybe around a new offer that you may have for your store, we will go into a format like that people can scroll and they can read all the information, all the benefits, and how can they even achieve or get that promotion or that service of yours. So after we have done the calendar plan, which is the pillars on how can we start creating your content, and after we have defined the formats, we moved into the content assets. So the content assets, it's basically how we start creating and how we start, mixing and match everything for your store. So for example, one of our DQ clients mentioned that they wanted to do some promotion around the DQ. They wanted more people to download the DQ app. So our first thought was, okay, if we need to grab attention, we need to do something in a video format that goes along with the promotion. So as you can see on the screen, on the right side, we have the creative, we have the design, the video, and then on the left side, we have something that's called caption. So caption is the message that goes along with the video or with the image. And you might think that maybe this is something that's just random, but actually this is something that we created very carefully and very thoughtfully. And just to give you a quick overview. The caption, we start everything with writing a hook in the first sentence. So a hook is something that catches people's attention. It can be a question, a statement. It has to be something that triggers people into reading more, that triggers their curiosity. And then after we have catch their attention, we moved into explaining what the offer, what the product, the service is about. In this case, we explain the benefits of downloading the DQ app. And then we add a third line, which is a CTA. This is called a call to action. This is where we tell people what they should do next after they have read this information. So in this scenario, is for them to go and download the DQ app. And finally, we add the hashtags. This is mainly to signal Instagram, Facebook, Google, and even some other social medias what the content is about and who should this content be shown to, what audience should be seeing this content. So this is one example of a video that goes with a promotion, but then another example can be something that's more seasonal. So again, one of our DQ stores in Reno, they wanted us to do a promotion around a blizzard, and they wanted to pair that with a very local event, which is the Hot August Nights. So that's where we came up with this graphic that you can see on the right side. And then on the left side, we follow the same structure when it comes to the caption. We start by writing a hook, which is what catches their attention. In this case, we write something relatable to the local event, which is Hot August Nights. And then on the second line, we explain a little bit more that this is about the local event. On the third one, we add the call to action. Again, this is just to tell people what they should do next. In this case, we wrote stop by DQ Reno today. And then you may see that we have a new element, which is the address. So we added this because maybe in Reno, we have several DQ stores. So we wanted to drive people into going exactly into the store that we wanted them to. And then finally, we have the hashtags, which again is how we signal social medias and Google what is this content about and who is the audience for this content. So after we have done the calendar plan, we have defined the formats, and after we have created the content assets, we go into the round of approval. So this is when we send you the content calendar and we ask for your feedback. We ask, what do you think about the content, if we should change something or if we should add anything else. So again, this is where communication is extremely important, because your insights are, again, the cherry on top on this part. And like that, we can post content that it's aligned with your store and with your goals. So after we have got that good to go sign from your part, we moved into posting the content. But our job doesn't stop there. We start to do data analysis. And here we analyze what has worked, maybe what we should change. We analyze as well, how does the engagement, how does the views are being translated into sales for your local store. And again, this is where we do the client check-ins, where we see how did it go for you during the previous month, and we start doing adjustments for the future content. So in a main overview, this is how we do everything from start to finish. We start by doing the research part, then we start moving into the idea development. And then after we have gathered the ideas, we move into the content creation side. Then we send this to you for feedbacks and approvals. If we have some corrections, then we do these corrections. We send you the final designs. And after you give us that green light, we proceed on to scheduling. And then we moved into the content analysis. So this is everything that we do every single month to have content for your local store. And this is how mainly it's presented, the whole process. So right now you might be wondering, okay, this seems like it's a lot of work to do. Do you really think I can do this myself? And then my answer will be yes. If you have the time, if you want to develop the skills, you can totally start creating content by yourself. In fact, some of the content ideas that you can start doing by yourself can be, for example, to have your phone in front of you and you can start talking about a new product that you have in your store, or a new service, or an offer. Or maybe you can do a tutorial. Maybe you can do a tutorial on how do you create a product. For example, how can you make a blister if you're a DQ store? or maybe if you're a UPS store, on how do you package a certain product. And then another content piece that you can create, or even your employees can create, it's called EGC content, employee generated content, which is where you tell your employees maybe to fill themselves after you have their approval. They can record, maybe you can record them maybe trying the new blizzards of the month, or maybe you can record them packaging a product from start to finish. And then finally, you can hop up into trends. So every month we have new trends coming up. However, not every single trend is something that you should follow. You have to analyze as well what goes aligned with your store. Again, think about your store as if it was a human being. Does this trend match the personality of your store? Does this trend match the message that you want to share? You have to be really thoughtful and really careful when you're doing trends, but that's another possibility of content that you can start doing. However, the cost of doing content alone, it's extremely high. It takes several hours every week that you have to put into research, into creation. It takes as well multiple skills. That's why you have a full team that's behind your back that helps you with every single task. And also you will have to stay on top of trends, which are very fast changing. So we have seen in the past that local franchise owners, they might start doing content by themselves, but when it comes to consistency, they struggle a bit because they see that there is a lot happening behind the scenes, and then they stop posting. However, as I mentioned at the beginning, this is something that's very harmful, because if your content is outdated or if you're not active, your customer will go with your competitor that's across the street. So that's why at imLabs, we take the burden and the stress of creating content from your shoulders, and we turn this into an asset that drives visibility, that builds trust, and that brings customers to your local store. So that's very much it from my side. So yeah, thank you everybody. Hope you have a nice day and see you at the next webinar. Thank you for your time.